everybody. Alright. Forgive me for my scatterbrainness. I know I'm not filming where I normally am. It is probably right at 7 a.m. right now, and I've been up since probably about 4, so bear with me. Today we're working on phases of the moon. And, alright, so in witchcraft, the phases of the moon are significant. Each phase has different energy, and typically the different phases of the moon are incorporated in different spells and rituals and things like that, depending on what the purpose of the spell or ritual is. Some work better different phases than others. And also, typically women can also track their cycle by this phase of the moon roughly. It's gotten to the point my husband tracks it that way. It's very weird. So let's start at the beginning. The new moon. The new moon, being at the beginning of the lunar cycle, this phase is naturally associated with new beginnings, starting fresh, things of that nature. This is when you would set your intentions, plant your seeds for manifestation for the month. And historically, when the new moon came, the ancient Greeks had a ritual, and I am probably butchering the name, so please forgive me. Nomenia, or Nomenia. I think it's Nomenia, though. This is when they would offer gifts to their gods and or goddesses, and clean house, refresh their altar, and relax and feast, and basically that was a day of no work, no public meetings, that sort of thing. Typically the same way a lot of Christian religions view Sunday. Typically in a lot of Christian religions, Sunday is the day of rest. That is basically what Nomenia was to the Greeks, was the day of rest. It was refresh your altar, family time, home time. You didn't really leave the house unless you had to. So, next we're going to go to the waxing crescent moon. During this phase is when you just get a sliver that's starting to show. And this is the time for growth. This phase supports growth, motivation, and taking the first steps towards whatever your goal is for that month. And this is when you need to build your momentum, initiate projects, reinforce your intentions that you set during the new moon. Typically spells that would be done in that time would be like spells for growth, like personal growth and things like that. The first quarter moon, when we were growing up, we called it the half moon. It was a half moon, whether it's the first quarter or the last quarter. Either way, it was back when we were kids. Most of us considered it a half moon. But the first quarter moon is a time to take action. It's this phase is about self-reflection, assessment to evaluate your progress and make any necessary changes. This is a time for growth and movement and momentum. It's the ideal time to tackle new challenges and embrace change and growth, especially for that month. So, new moon is your rest and prep waxing crescent, that's your planning. And first quarter is when you're really starting to dive in, if that makes sense. The waxing gibbous moon. As the moon continues to grow brighter, now is the time for growth and manifestation. It's a time of heightened power and vitality. It's a great time for refinement, perseverance, and fine-tuning your strategy when you focus on your desires and start to witness their realization. This is when you start seeing the seeds of your work paying off. You're not seeing the full-blown thing and all that, but you're like, oh wait, this is working. This is working. Okay, let me keep doing this. Let me do what works. I'm seeing progress. The full moon. The full moon is considered the pinnacle of the lunar cycle, making it a powerful moment to tackle significant issues and challenges in your life. It is a time to concentrate on your spells and rituals on matters of the utmost importance to you. The full moon represents a time of release, a chance to let go of what no longer serves you. It provides an opportunity to purify yourself of negative thoughts, emotions, habits, and embrace new growth and possibilities. Now, typically with full moon, someone's doing a full moon ritual. I don't care where you are, there's someone somewhere doing a full moon ritual. Full moon and really the phases after are a lot about release and reflection and things like that. And the full moon is the start of that. And the full moon is the initial letting go of the nasty stuff, if that makes any sense. It is a great time for manifestation, divination, and tapping into your intuition. It's also when you are most likely to charge your crystals, make moon water, a lot of cleansing things. Typically you would cleanse, charge crystals, new items you got, things like that, typically at the full moon. I know with my husband, he prefers with specific things, especially his necklaces, or even my necklaces. He'll set it outside during the full moon. He prefers to put his crystals under the full moon. I, on the other hand, and I fully lean into the fact that it's a mix of the fire sign, my fire sign, that is my sun sign, and my ascendant, and my moon sign being air, fire, air, smoke. I prefer to consecrate, cleanse, charge with smoke. My husband is more on the lunar end when it comes to cleansing and charging his crystals and jewelry and things like that. And for me, if we didn't live where we do, I wouldn't have an issue with it. I don't trust where we live. So I'm very strict with my husband about where he can put it outside, where I know it will be safe and that sort of thing. All right, now let's move on to the waning gibbous moon. Mind you, I don't make moon water either, for the same reason that I don't like charging things outside during the full moon. It's not the safest place, and we both get up a little too late in the morning to actually collect it before the sun rises. That's the whole thing. But anyways, waning gibbous moon. Now that the moon is just starting to shrink, now is the time to reflect, for reflection and gratitude, dream work, and in-depth journaling is also great to do during this time. This is when you really start to get into your in-depth self-reflection, more or less, about, okay, what happened this month? How could I have improved things? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? How can I improve in the future? Type thing. It is mainly about reflection and figuring out what you need to do with the rest of the month to basically improve and let go. Next is the last quarter moon. Last quarter moon marks a time of reflection and letting go. It invites you to release patterns and behaviors that no longer serve you and turn inward for self-care and emotional healing. This moon phase is also known for its association with release, closure, and endings. It provides an opportunity to examine what has passed and let go of what is no longer beneficial. The last quarter is also a time for introspection and self-reflection, allowing for inner growth and spiritual advancement. This is the ideal time for making decisions about your future and what to keep or release from your life. This, just like the first quarter moon, is the time to take action when it comes to doing work and building up to something and things like that. The last quarter moon is very much a time to basically wrap it up. Take action to wrap it up. Work on self-improvement, things like that. And work a little bit and begin to work on your self-healing. I've considered always that the first half of the moon cycle is the working towards something. The last half is necessarily more introspection and healing. That is how I've always considered it. And release. You build it the first half, you release it the second half. And when I was doing my research on this, it pretty much confirmed what I had thought. The waning crescent moon. Now, this was an interesting one, and it brought me to something I'd never heard of before. But we will get to that in a second. This phase is very much an introspective phase. It's time to rest, surrender, and do deep inner work. This is the best time for shadow work and a good time to meditate on lessons learned and prepare to start fresh. At the tail end of the cycle, it is something that I read about when I was researching for this class called the dark moon. The dark moon occurs just before the new moon. When the moon is completely invisible in the sky, this phase represents deep introspection, endings, and transformations, making it a powerful time for shadow work, banishing and seeking hidden wisdom. It is associated with Hecate. Now, I personally do not follow Hecate. She has not come to me, so I don't follow her. But a lot of people that follow her, probably in some way, shape, or form, know of the dark moon or follow the practices of the dark moon. She is the goddess of the crossroads, magic, and the unseen. And Hellenistic and ancient Greeks honor her on this night with the Deipnon, or Diapnon? Diapnon? Again, butchering. And I probably should have looked up what that was. But all in all, to me, the dark moon, yes, I understand from a religious magic aspect what it represents and things like that. And for someone who someone who follows Hecate, I can understand how the dark moon is very, very beneficial. But to me, personally, the dark moon feels like, from what I've researched and what I've read, it feels like a transition period, more so than anything, from the ending of one cycle to the beginning. Because many things that when I was looking up stuff on the dark moon, it was quite literally talking about a combination of things between the waning crescent moon and the new moon. So to me, it felt like just that in-between transitional period where you're going from your old cycle, and it's more of okay, well, now it's time to do the shadow work and figure out what I need to work on next month. And it's like a prep for the new cycle, almost. And I have no problem with that. I will probably never again call it the dark moon. I will probably automatically forget what the dark moon is after this class, if I'm being honest. Because to me, that's just the tail end of the waning crescent moon and going into the new moon. It's just a transition period. And I'll probably always call it the transition period. I will probably never again refer to it as the dark moon, but at least now, if someone brings up the dark moon, I'll know what they're referring to. So it's one of those interesting little tidbits to have in the back of your mind and know, even if you're never going to use it for yourself, that phrase for yourself respectively. At least you know what someone else is talking about. And I have all respect for it, and I get it. And again, between the waning crescent moon and the new moon, I knew there was that little transitional period, because logically it makes sense. You need to have that time towards the end of the waning crescent moon to do that shadow work and prepare and get ready for the new cycle and figure out what you're going to work on. And even in the new moon, at the very beginning of the new moon, you're typically still, that's why it's the time of rest and things like that. You're still trying to figure out, okay, I did my shadow work. Which of these things am I working on? Typically the first day of the new moon, that's what you're doing. And at that point, and you're typically figuring this out while you're giving your offerings and you're cleaning your altar and things like that. It's one of those things that's in the back of your mind where you're like, all right, what am I working on? What seeds am I planting? And typically that night or the next morning, that's when you're starting to plant your seeds. And call it a dark moon, call it a transition. You don't have to call it anything at all. It's the generalized concept of, you have that transition you have to go to before you start your new cycle, because you have to figure out what new things you want to or need to work on. No problem with that. But my whole inspiration for doing this month, and typically this would be something I would save probably for a few weeks down the road when we started, or even a couple months down the road when we started working on like the beginner things in spell work. I was inspired to do this month because I am running the full moon ritual for my local group. And me and my husband were discussing it, and I told him, I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do for class. And he goes, I mean, you're doing full moon, why don't you do something moon related? Different phases or the significance of the full moon, or work that can be done at different times and things like that. I was like, well, I don't want to do what kinds of spell work or what different spells would work best at what different times of the moon, because that can be a class in its own, which is what I originally intended this to be. So what would have been almost a 30-minute class would have actually ended up being an hour class if I had done this and done that all in one class. So I sat there and I thought about it and discussed it with him. I was like, okay, I'll do the phases of the moon and what they mean, at least energy-wise. Because in my mind, that makes sense. And it's still an okay starter thing without getting too in depth of, you do this spell this time, this spell this time. You can do whatever spell whenever you want. It's just more effective at certain times than others. But I will stop rambling. I would like everyone to start, at least with this full moon, start your process of letting go of what no longer serves you. This month is a buck moon in Capricorn, and it is basically about grounding yourself, letting go of things that don't serve you, reevaluating your goal that you set at the beginning of the year, and basically tweaking and self-reflecting on how things have gone so far and making improvements. Kind of like how the first quarter moon typically is every month. This is the first quarter moon of this year, basically. Not literally, but in relation to what this full moon is, it would be this in a monthly cycle. But this is a time to reevaluate and readjust your plan and how you're doing things, and do a lot of grounding work and introspective work to try to figure out whether it be something in your personal life, something in your professional life, whatever your goal was. And I know my personal group, we all pretty much, it was either Yule or it was the first full moon of the new year. We all had set goals of what we personally wanted to improve. And this is the time for tweaking and adjustments, and to let go of the ick and the things that haven't worked at the beginning of the year. Like, some people, they're overthinking it, they're trying to over logic it, they're being too logistical about it, and they're not letting other people in. And because they have issues with emotional attachment, it might not be working for you. Maybe you need to look into letting someone in, even if it's just one person, or vice versa. you're extremely emotional about the situation and the goal you had at the beginning of the year, and you're getting frustrated and things like that, now is the time to sit and look at it logically and be like, okay, so A, B, and C didn't work. Why didn't it work? What can we do to fix this? And I know with me, I am typically the latter. I get very emotional, and it's part of my mental health issues. I will fully admit that. And it's one of those things where I know for myself, I need to take a step back and basically look at it as an outsider looking in and see where adjustments can be made instead of getting overwhelmed and being overcritical of myself and things of that nature. But what I want everyone to do is, and this is basically the same exercise I'm going to give tomorrow night at full moon. I mean, I'm not going to lie. And I'm going to add an extra one too. I want everyone to, one, light a candle. Don't care what kind of candle it is. A white candle's fine. It's all purpose. I heard something about a brown candle that's rolled in a certain oil and cinnamon. It does not have to be that extreme. It really doesn't. But light a candle. It can even be a tea light. Doesn't matter. On a piece of paper, write down the thing that is blocking you, no longer serving you. That is basically impeding your progress. Whether it be a person, a thing, whatever it is. It can be one thing, it can be a list of things. I don't care. Just don't burn the house down. Don't write a whole book, you'll burn the house down. No, we're not doing that. But write down 1, 2, 3 things that are keeping you from getting to your goal. The things that have been the biggest issue with the first half of this year that you're ready to let go of, basically. And burn it. Just burn it. And when you burn it, put the intention in that I am letting this go. This no longer serves me. I'm going to do better. This is no longer going to be an issue. Or some variation of the sort. And then, after you do that, I want you to get a piece of paper, notebook, whatever. Some people do a journal, some people do a piece of paper, whatever. But I want it to be something tangible and physical. So not notes on your phone that you're going to end up ignoring or anything like that. Write down 3 goals for the next 90 days that pertain to your main goal. Baby steps. What 3 baby steps can I make in the next 90 days to get closer to my goal? And my suggestion and you need to look at that paper, notebook, whatever, once a week to refresh your memory and be like, okay, wait, what were my baby steps? Have I done any of these? what do I need to do next? So weekly, just check it, whatever. Even if it's a piece of paper that you stick on your mirror or have on your nightstand or on your fridge or whatever, whiteboard that you writing these on. I don't care. But look at it once a week to remember what your baby steps are. And for, I would say, your first goal, because I know everybody has issues with this. I don't care who you are, don't care where you're from. I have issues with it. My high priestess has issues with it. My husband has issues with it. Everybody has issues with it. First thing on that list, self-care. Whether it be once a day, once a week, something. Make it a goal to set time aside for yourself. To do something for yourself. Whether it be soak in a bubble bath, a face mask, a hike. Just something for you that will help you recharge and help you feel refreshed. Like I said, I'm very guilty of it. I have so many issues with even the idea of doing self-care. And again, mental health issues, it's the whole thing. But what I had always been told, well, my high priestess has tried beating into my head, which I am stubborn as a mule. And I've always been the person, I take care of everyone else, but I don't take care of myself. You can't fix someone else if you're broken. You have to basically, like on airplanes, you need to put your oxygen mask on before you can put someone else's on. Because you can't put theirs on if you ain't breathing. And as stubborn as I am about it, as hard-headed as I am about it, it does still ring true. And it's one of those things, as much as logically I believe it, and logically I agree with it, emotionally I have trouble because of how deeply ingrained it is in myself to take care of everybody else. And like I said, yeah, she says it to me, but she's just as bad about it as I am. And I get it. We're all bad at it. But maybe if we make that one of our baby steps, even if it's just once a week, we will go and actually start doing it. Start doing something. But now that my rant and ramble is on, and I am off my soapbox, in the comments below, in the chats, tell me, what are your baby goals? Your baby step goals that you have. Or you can even tell me, or tell us, share, what you're letting go of. Either or. And I still haven't fully figured mine out. I will fully admit it. But a lot of mine is probably because my goal for the year is basically getting my self-worth and self-confidence back. A lot of that's figuring out self-care and things like that. So I need to figure out exactly what my baby steps are. Maybe setting time aside for myself once a week to do something just for me. Probably trying to dress up once a week. Little things like that. I haven't fully fleshed it out and figured it out yet. But I would like to thank Jacksonville Witches Society for inspiring me to start this class and allowing me to share this class with everyone, because knowledge is to be shared. Everyone, have a great day, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.